All right. Good morning, everyone. And thank you so much for joining us all here today. Today's shir should be Le'ilu Nishmas, our dear friend Menachem ben Yisrael Yaakov, as well as my dear aunt Rivka Bas Gavriel Tzvi, and Le'ilu Nishmas Zaidi Reb Shmuel ben Yosef Dov HaKoyen, and the Refuah Shalem Bakarov, Mishalom ben Sarah Rachel, Miriam Bas Sarah, and Yair Yeshia ben Chaya Atara. I do want to say, I was given an update on one of the people that we are saying, Refuah Shalem, and I hear that he is in remission. Our dear friend Mishalom ben Sarah Rachel, that he's doing much better. And I don't want to say we should take credit for that. I just want to say that every little bit counts around anybody who gets credit in Zchusim. It helps. And so it's good to hear, it's nice to hear when people are doing better and things are going in the ways that we feel that is a good way, in a positive direction. So thank you for sharing that yesterday with us, David. Okay. So yesterday we finished off talking about the concept of why the righteous people sometimes suffer and the evil people, we see many times, often, that they are very prosperous. Now, we're moving on to the subject of choosing an occupation. So we understand that we need to do our shtadlus. And up until now, we have to remember, we go back just a little bit, a couple of weeks ago, this was the fifth principle of bitachon. So up to this point in Shaar Habitachon's presentation of the fifth principle, Rav Av has done a few things. First of all, he set forth that the world runs on cause and effect. We learned about that. Then he spoke about establish that a man must make use of the system, of the cause and effect system, in order to obtain his sustenance. He has to do that. And then, which is the shtadlus portion. The third thing he says, given the two reasons why Hashem made man exert himself for that purpose, we gave two reasons why a person needs to actually do shtadlus. One of them is because we need to have these tests, these opportunities to do aliyas neshama, and the second, we shouldn't sit empty all day. The fourth is, he says, asserted that the supremely righteous are free from the need of hishtadlus. We learned that if someone who's really, really, really fully immersed only in Hashem, it speaks about over there that today's days a person like that doesn't exist. But if such a person did exist, that they would be freed from this need to do hishtadlus. And then the fifth, right now, yesterday we explained as to why sometimes we have the righteous people that suffer as when the evil people are seemingly doing fine. So now, Rav Av is going to return to the second point and elaborates more on how a man is supposed to make use of the cause and effect system, how we're supposed to do our shtadlus. And today's subject, in particular, we're going to talk about choosing an occupation based on bitachon. And we are on page 106 in the art scroll for those who are following along. And so we speak like this: having established the obligation for people to strive after means of earning a livelihood, of doing hishtadlus, we will now explain that there is no need for every person to seek out every means of sustenance that presents itself. Rather, each person has the option of choosing the occupation that is most suited to his personality. What he's saying is that not every single opportunity that comes your way should you jump on and say, oh, I'm going to do this. Because if we think about it, all we need to do is really just do hishtadlus, right? That's all we're asked to do. The outcome is up to Hashem. Rav Av is going to explain it, he's going to elaborate. No, you should do something that fits you. And here's what he's going to explain. He says, Kiasibas Rabbis, knowing how to make this choice is crucial because avenues of earning a living are many. There's so many different ways that a person can go about gaining his livelihood. There's so many different business opportunities, jobs out there that you can apply for. Now, he's going to help us choose the right livelihood to get into, choose the right job to apply to. Some are easy, involving very little physical exertion. He says, such as running a store, or performing a handicraft that involves little physical effort. And he gives some examples of that. such as stitching clothes, doing needlework, or being a scribe. V'itzur hamischarim, and storing merchandise until its prices rises. It's a concept of maybe like a wholesaler, he says. Someone who buys low and sells high. Or even just a regular storekeeper, that he buys some materials. And I don't want to say it also has to do with guys in the stock market. They buy a stock at $100, they want to sell it at $120. Or acting as a middleman in the hiring of sharecroppers, laborers, and assistants that landowners need for agricultural labor. Today we know them. We have these companies that they what are they called? Temp agencies. Companies that help you find laborers. Companies that help you find people to work for you, employees. So you could do something like that. However, there also are some means of earning a livelihood that involve physical toil and exertion, such as tanning skins. If you look a little bit into it, tanning skins is actually a very physical and it's actually a very unhealthy process. There's a lot of chemicals used in it. There's a lot of physical labor that goes into getting it done. It's a lot of being out in the sun, in the fields and stuff like that. They use these big vats. Or mining iron, copper, lead, and places of origin in earth, meaning you have to go physically dig up. You go to big mines. Back in the day, and especially in the beginning of the gold rush, you actually physically went. You know how many people got killed actually during the gold rush? Because they dug these tunnels, went deep into the depths of the earth, and the tunnels collapsed on them. How many people were buried alive at that point? And so there's a physically exerting jobs. Vizikov hakesef by ferris, or refining silver by melting it with lead. Also a physical and also a very a physically unhealthy job to do as well. There's a lot of chemicals used in that process. Or carrying heavy burdens, or constantly traveling long distances, or working the land and plowing it, and the like. He's bringing a bunch of different things, that there's different types of jobs out there, different types of opportunities out there. And you should look around in those things. And he's going to get to this point in a minute. Now, we explained these different types of jobs out there, and obviously we know all the different types of things out there that there are available for work. Now, with regard to the person who's physically strong and intellectually weak, it is appropriate for him to choose a means of earning a livelihood that involves physical exertion to the degree that he can endure. Meaning, maybe this person should go work in the fields. Maybe he should be a miner. Maybe he should do all kinds of different things that a physically able person, he's not the brightest bulb in the shack, but he's physically able. And you know what? That should be his livelihood. Find something that he's able to use his capabilities to do so. On the other hand, someone who's physically weak and intellectually strong, should not seek out a means of sustenance that exhausts his body. That guy should not go and join a bodybuilding competition to make money, nor should he become a laborer in the streets that's hauling bricks and stones, because the guy's not able to. But he's smart. So go do something else that smart people could do, that they can make a livelihood. Rather, he should turn on to whatever occupation is easy on his body, and which he will be able to continue to do for many years, because he can use his brain for that. Thus, one consideration for choosing an occupation is physical and intellectual aptitude. Rav Av now mentions a second consideration. Now, we understand that there's a job that's out there that's made for you, for your physical or mental well-being. And now he's going to talk about a different idea. He says, also, every person has an inclination for one particular type of work or business over another. And I'm going to explain that in just a second. Because Hashem has already imbued in liking and preference for it into his nature. Hashem instilled in every person, and what Rav Av is trying to explain, Hashem gave every person a different physical ability, but also an ability to do different things. You see some people, the lemurs, some of them are singers, and that's a gift from Hashem. And it would be wrong for someone who has a beautiful voice and can make a livelihood over that to go work in the fields. But Rav Av is saying that Hashem gave every person a signature trait, an ability, a gift to do something. The reason is very, very, very proper. Hashem did that because even though Hashem could give you the money that you need doing anything, but Hashem wants you to actually enjoy what you do. Hashem wants you to enjoy what you do because every person likes to do something else. And this way Hashem can make sure and manage that the world is not going to be lacking any kind of necessities or different kind of even, not necessities, things that we want, some luxuries in life. And Hashem wanted to make sure that there's a person to be able to want to do that kind of stuff. Like, for instance, an artist who enjoys art. And some of them, we know there's always this story about the starving artist. What's this thing about the starving artist? They just love what they do. They're going to continue painting. They're going to continue sculpting. They're going to continue doing their craft because they love doing that. And even though it might not bring them so much money. But the concept over there is that Hashem put into each one of us this gift and ability to do certain things. Now with that, Rav Av notes that the phenomenon of different people having natural inclinations for different forms of obtaining a livelihood has a parallel in the animal kingdom. Tomorrow, we're going to get into this. And we're going to talk about how just like Hashem gave a person, and we just spoke about this, these gifts, these abilities to do different things, and therefore you should seek out the jobs, the opportunities, the businesses that fit that personality. Like we just said, don't try to become a lawyer when you know you're a failing student. You're not good in school. Don't try to become a lawyer. You have to spend 7 years in school. It's not for you. Maybe you're really good at being, a sports figure. I don't know. Whatever it is, you should go and do that. Tomorrow we're going to see how Hashem, not only with human beings does Hashem do that, but Hashem gives also the capabilities for every animal, for every living organism on this world in order to survive. The concept is, and we have to understand, that Hashem is giving us these abilities in order to make sure that we could survive. Because remember the biggest point over here. Hashem didn't promise us riches. Hashem didn't promise us this beautiful, beautiful stuff. Some of us deserve it, and some of us, Hashem will give it to us. But not everyone. But what Hashem did promise is Hashem is going to provide you with basic sustenance in order to survive. It doesn't mean you're going to be eating steak, but it means that you're not going to go hungry. You're not going to die of starvation. We're going to learn actually, and later on in Shaar Habitachon, that there's no person that ever will die from starvation unless his decree of death is through starvation. This decree of death, all different ways that someone could die. We list them. Unfortunately, people die from fires, from drowning. We say that in Yom Kippur we talk about Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. But Rav Av is going to mention that the only time a person will not gain their basic sustenance is when it's a decree by Hashem that this person needs to die from starvation. Once again, welcome to all our newcomers today. Shmuley Lemmer, thank you very, very much for joining. Thank you everyone else, including Shmuley, for joining us today, and I love you all.